Hello, everybody, and welcome to News of the Week, episode 3 on the Seahawk Recap Show. Ah, this week has a lot of news in it, and I picked 4 of the headlines that I really wanted to talk about in today's episode. And it seems like every preseason, now that the preseason is shorter by a game, it looks like preseason builds, and then on the third and final game, there's a lot of news that comes out. So, without further ado, let's get in to the news of the week. In this episode, we'll talk about some of the preseason movement so far. So, if you watched last News of the Week episode 2, when I was talking about Shannon Sharpe leaving Undisputed with Skip Bayless, and I was hoping that he would stay in the broadcasting NFL sphere so that I could hear him keep talking, and I really like him as an analyst. I really like him as a football commentator. So I was really happy when I heard this news. Shannon Sharpe will be joining First Take and Stephen A. Smith. ESPN announced on Thursday that Sharpe will be joining First Take on Mondays and Tuesdays during football season. Sharpe will debut on September 4th. With Sharpe, ESPN will likely replace Michael Irvin. So, Michael Irvin is a former wide receiver, and according to Oran of Sports Business Journal, Irving agreed to a deal on Monday to join the rotating cast of FS1's Undisputed. So, rotating cast. What I get from that is it'll be Michael Irvin and then maybe one or two other analysts to join that rotating cast of people for Undisputed. Whether that means Richard Sherman is still in the running for being on Undisputed, still unclear. There's still no official start date for him. Is he going to be there? I just don't know. Was it a rumor that I heard that I wanted to talk about? Um, I don't know. I hope he still gets the chance to be there, but we will see. And also with Michael Irvin, um, let's talk about this. For now, it's not clear whether the book has closed on his time with NFL Network. So, Michael Irvin, if you remember last year, I believe it was last year, he had some allegations thrown at him by a person on a hotel staff in, I believe, Arizona that got him kicked off or relieved of duties allegedly by the NFL Network. And is he still going to be with the NFL Network? I don't know. Do we know if his contract was terminated by NFL Network? We just don't know. What we do know for sure is that Michael Irvin will be starting a new chapter with Undisputed. And I honestly don't know what to say about this. I'm happy Michael Irvin has now found work. He's denied all allegations of this, obviously. Um, and I wish Michael Irvin and now Shannon Sharpe the best of luck in their future endeavors. And with Shannon Sharpe, one more thing, this is going to get me wanting to watch First Take again because I want to see Stephen A. Smith, who actually I really like Stephen A. Smith. To be completely honest with you, I like him. I know some people don't like him. They think he's obnoxious. They think his takes are dumb. But we look at Stephen A. Smith, and he's a good journalist. He's shown that he's a good journalist. He's shown that he's the face of ESPN. Whenever you think of ESPN, you'll probably think of Stephen A. Smith. And he's a TV personality, guys. At the end of the day, He's a TV personality. His job is to make make sure that you're having fun and are engaging with the content. So even though he can be a little loud and a little obnoxious, it's his job. His job is to be an entertainer, and give you some facts about basketball and football. And I really want to see how Shannon Sharpe will mix with uh, the explosive personality of Stephen A. Smith. That'll be fun TV to just listen to and watch. But the next thing on the list we will be talking about is Johnathan Taylor requests a trade from the Colts. Oh, man. We knew this was coming. We knew this was coming. Everybody sort of, I hope, knew this was coming. The only way you would have known this was not probably an outcome that would have happened is if you were living under a rock. Because right now, from what we were hearing, Johnathan Taylor and Jim Irsay of the Colts management weren't happy with each other. They were looking. Johnathan Taylor was looking for a new contract, and Jim Irsay was having none of it. So let's talk about Johnathan Taylor. So in 2020, his rookie season, his contract ELC, it was $7.829 million for 4 years. He signed that in 2020 to 2024. Games played in his rookie season, 15. He had 232 attempts, 1,169 yards, averaged 5 yards per carry with 11 touchdowns. Receptions, he had 36. He almost made it with 300 yards, but ended one short with 299. He averaged 8.3 yards per catch with 1 touchdown. 2021 was his breakout season. He played 17 games, had 332 attempts. He had 1,811 yards. He had averaged 5.4 yards per carry with 18 touchdowns. Receptions, he had 40. Yards was 360. Averaged 9 yards per catch and had 2 touchdowns. And 2022, this previous season, he had 11 games, 192 attempts, had 861 yards, averaged 4.5 yards per carry with 4 touchdowns. His receptions, he had 28, 143 yards, averaged 5.1 yards, and had 0 touchdowns. Now, things you need to know. First of all, Johnathan Taylor is 24. He is looking for a new contract, but Jim Irsay can hold him. He can hold him for this season and say, no, we don't want to trade you. And I think that's what's going on right now is they don't want to trade Johnathan Taylor. I don't think Jim Irsay wants to trade Johnathan Taylor. I don't think they want to keep Johnathan Taylor for one more season because he is a good running back. He had 2 seasons with 1,000 yards. So for a running back right now, that's pretty good. And he was almost 200. He was 200 yards away from reaching 1,000 yards in 2022 with only 11 games played. So I'd say that's pretty good. But I think they'll hold him for one more year. Things we need to know. He was injured. So he is recovering from surgery and has been placed on the physically unable to perform list and is still on the PUP as of August 14th. So one thing Johnathan Taylor is missing here, and I think a lot of young running backs will miss here, is that you're not going to get a big contract extension. Like you won't get $20 million or whatever. Like I know that's just a rough number, but like you won't get a big extension. Reason being is because you're coming off of an injury. If he is lucky, he will get a 1-year deal to prove that he is coming off of his injury, he's completely fine, and then they'll sign him. Or if he's bad and he's not proving that he's the same guy that he once was, then they can drop him. But one thing that I think we'll all learn, and if you watched again the second episode of news of the week, I have talked about the running back problem, and I talked about how the league has shifted into more of a passing offense. You're not seeing star running backs getting uh, the amount of money that they potentially could deserve, and their production hurts them. Uh, and I talked about injuries and how that impacts their value. So teams rumored to be interested, and this is from A to Z Sports, Dustin Adams. He is a Colts beat reporter, so I do trust the source. So teams rumored to have interest are the Bears, Dolphins, and Rams. But Jim Irsay has put a cap on this, not only with his demands, which we'll get to in a bit, but with a trade timeline. So by August 29th is an important date because this is preseason cut day. This is the final preparation day. This is when all teams around the NFL make their 53-man roster. So if a deal is not struck by then, we're going to have some issues. And the Colts and Johnathan Taylor will have to play nice with each other for one more season before Johnathan Taylor can go and leave. And here's another big thing. And here's why I think Jim Irsay is just keeping Johnathan Taylor. So the Colts want a first and a second and additional picks as well. Since Johnathan Taylor is looking for a new contract, it's going to make Taylor among one of the highest paid running backs in the league amid the current state of the running back market. So Johnathan Taylor wants to get paid a lot by teams, and the Colts want heavy compensation for Johnathan Taylor. So the Rams, Dolphins, and Bears are going to have a tricky time trying to agree with a deal with Johnathan Taylor, on top of having to give up massive futures to get Johnathan Taylor so that they can sign his contract that they made up. I think this is way too much work for teams right now. If I was smart, I wouldn't trade for Johnathan Taylor. And you might go and look at that and go, why wouldn't you trade for Johnathan Taylor? He's a really good back. But there's just way too many obstacles. You need to not only give him a contract, but then you need to then own his rights via trade. And Colts are gonna probably bleed you dry because they have all the leverage right now. So what I would do is just wait for Johnathan Taylor to run out. I would wait for him to run out, honestly, and then reevaluate his value at free agency. Honestly, if I was a GM, but again, I am not a GM, so we'll see what happens. It is the NFL. Crazy things have happened, and this is the perfect segue. I'm really proud of this. Let's talk about the crazy things that have happened. Isiah Simmons, a former 8th overall pick in 2020, traded to the New York Giants for a 7th round pick in 2024. When I heard that, my brain exploded. I was hysterical. I was hysterical when I heard that. My jaw hit the floor, and I'm like, for a 7th, that's all you got for a guy that has put up this amount of stats, and we'll talk about it. But that's all you got for a linebacker, for a guy that you spent a first round pick on, a single digit first round pick. He was 8th. You traded the 8th overall pick for a 7th. Are you kidding? What went wrong there? And we'll talk about what went wrong, I think. So in 2020, his contract ELC was $1.664 million. He had it for 4 years, and he had 2020 to 2024 was the contract. So in his rookie season, he had 16 games played for 48 tackles, 2 sacks. PDEF is passes defended that caused an incompletion. So it's just passes defended. So he had 2 passes defended. He had 1 interception and 1 forced fumble. In 2021, he had 17 games played. Total tackles was 99. He had 1.5 sacks. He defended 7 passes, had 1 interception, and 4 forced fumbles. In 2022, at the age of 25, he had also played 17 games, He had 94 tackles, 4 sacks, 7 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. And one thing I was looking at when I was reading comments, like I usually do, I do read comments on trades and things, and I saw this on Instagram, and I was looking at this, and one person asked in the comments, "Was he that bad? Was he that bad in Arizona? Why was he traded for a seventh?" Um, and you look at what he's done, and people are saying, "Oh, he didn't fit the scheme in Arizona. That's why he was traded." And some people were trolling, I think, and said, "Oh yeah, he's bad. He didn't really do much for us." But to those people that were saying, "Oh, he was bad," even if you're joking, where was he bad? Looking at his stats just alone, I know stats are deceiving, but I'm looking at not all his stats of like tackles and all that. I'm looking at the games. He's been healthy, man. He's healthy. So he's done a lot of things. And I think honestly, what are we saying that he's bad for? Scheme fit could be an issue, yeah, and we'll talk about that. So let's talk about the fit. So it seems like Isiah Simmons was dealt because he went from linebacker to safety. Although Arizona ownership at the time was supportive of the switch, it didn't really make much sense from a team perspective. Because if you're going to safety, why are you going to safety? Because you already have Buda Baker and you have veteran Jalen Thompson. Um, but you look at this, and I get it from a team perspective. You go, okay, we don't need you as safety. We already have safeties. We don't need you at safety. You could have just said, no, we need you at linebacker because we need you to be uh, the Chandler Jones replacement because we lost Chandler Jones to Vegas in the Raiders. So you could have just said that to him. He wouldn't have been happy about it, but you didn't need to trade him for a seventh. Um, but here comes the confusing part. The new regime of head coach Johnathan Gannon and GM Monty Osenfort declined Isaiah's fifth-year option. Uh, okay. Why? Why would you why would you decline a fifth-year option? You're a new regime. It's not Cliff Kingsbury's team anymore. And allegedly Cliff Kingsbury did have some issues with Isiah Simmons. He was doing some things that like in on the field that were not great. He either that was just he was being a little bit reckless or he was missing tackles or whatever. I don't know the full story, but apparently that was a problem for Cliff Kingsbury. But you look at what the GM said. He spoke on the Isiah Simmons trade. He's been here for the past 3 seasons, and I wish him all the best going forward. But just for us as a team, where we're at, we thought it was the best move to make. Okay. Okay. So what that indicates to me, that comment right there, you're rebuilding. You're trying to rip the team down to the studs and rebuild it from the ground up. Admirable. Okay. If you're going to do a full rebuild, do it right. Do it right. But here's where it gets really confusing for me because if you're going to do a full rebuild, why would you not take a 25-year-old like Isiah Simmons and trade him, but trade him for more than something like a seventh round pick? Like, why would you could get a first? I swear you could. I wouldn't be surprised. There are people that need linebackers, and there are people that need safeties. I think. Like, I don't know who would need a safety, but think of your team. Think of your favorite team. Um, I know maybe the Jets, for example. I know some people were saying, like a Jets fan was in the comments and saying, "Oh, well, if they're giving up Isiah Simmons for a seventh, can we get Buda Baker now and get him for a seventh?" Well, for the Jets, if Isiah Simmons wants to move to safety, and I know that in the preseason, at least in the preseason, that it was reported that he wasn't really doing well at safety. So you probably want him still at linebacker, and that's what Brian Dable and the Giants are going to do with him. They're going to keep him at linebacker. Uh, at least that's what Brian Dable was alluding to, the head coach of the New York Giants. But again, getting a seventh, that return is so minuscule. Why would you not try to get something better? And it's like, oh, but they had no leverage. Says who? Says who they have no leverage? They have a guy that has missed one game in his entire career. They have a healthy guy. They have all these stats to go off of. They have all these elite, like he can be an elite pass rusher. So you could go to the bargaining table and go, okay, well, you need to give him a contract, but he's good. So give us a first round pick. Or you could have done the smart thing and picked up his 5th-year option and then traded him. What I would have done if I was the new GM, I would have just taken his 5th-year option. If you're going to trade him, why? Oh, why would you not pick up his 5th-year option and go, okay, we picked up your 5th year. Now we can trade you, because that would give you even more leverage, because then you go, okay, yeah, his 5th-year option is picked up. So you get you get this year and next year, and then you can get a first round pick. Why wouldn't you do that? So the Giants got to steal. Giants just got to steal. And you could say, oh, well, it's too early to tell. It's too early to tell. If he puts up numbers like this, they've won. They've won that trade. And you could say, oh, well, Arizona just got something for him, for a player that they didn't want. Well, again, I can see how you say that, but how do you just get a 7? What are you doing? What are you doing? But anyways, we'll move on from that. It's just mind-boggling. I don't get it. I don't get the whole 7th-round pick thing, but I guess I'm not a GM, so I don't know what they have in their back pocket. And the final thing I wanted to talk about in this episode was Sam Darnold being named the backup quarterback for the 49ers. Former 3rd overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft, Trey Lance is now the 3rd quarterback on the depth chart, behind Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, and then himself. Oh boy, this does not look good for the 49ers. This is one of the, I know Ryan Clark said this is one of the worst trades maybe in NFL history. Because remember what the 49ers gave up in 2021 to get up enough to get Trey Lance. They gave up 3 first-round picks, I believe, if I remember correctly. And yeah, you give up 3 first-round picks for a guy that has played 8 games. So let's talk about it. So 2021, Trey Lance's rookie season, his contract ELC was $34.105 million for 4 years. He signed that in 2021 to 2024. They still have a year left with him. They can either pick up his 5th year, or they could cut their losses and drop him. So in 2021, his rookie season, he played 6 games, went 41 for 71. Completion percentage, or PCT, was 57.8%. Yards, he had 603. Touchdowns, he had 5. Interceptions, he had 2. In 2022, he had 2 games played. And the reason why he had 2 games played was because he suffered in week 2 a horrific injury, and we will talk about that. So he only played 2 games, went 15 for 31. His passing completion percentage was 48.4%. He had 194 yards, threw no touchdowns, had 1 interception. Let's go back down to what you need to know. He spent his rookie season behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember that. He only played a couple games because Jimmy Garoppolo actually played the games and he was a backup. So he only played 6 games and he came in as injury relief when Jimmy Garoppolo went down and he injured himself against the Lions. I think he broke his finger, if I remember correctly, and that messed up his throwing mechanics. And for that, he only played 6 games. But last season, Lance was handed the starting job, but that lasted less than 5 quarters as he broke his ankle early in week 2 and was sidelined for the rest of the season. Now, when Sam Darnold was named the backup QB, 2 things happened. First of all, the NFL world went completely bananas and started saying, okay, well, time to bring out trade videos. Time to say some things about, oh, Trey Lance getting traded. Is he going to get traded? Da, 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 da. And then another thing happened where John Lynch, the GM of the 49ers, came out and said, no, we're not trading Trey Lance. We want to keep him as a 49er. The reason why we gave Sam Darnold the backup position, because he was just better. He proved himself better in the preseason, and we still want to keep Lance, but we talked to him about it, and he was devastated. Obviously, when you put your heart and soul into something, you're going to be devastated. And now he's looking at recovering from his ankle injury. And do they sign him? Is the question. Or can they even trade him? If they wanted to trade him, if John Lynch wanted to trade him, what do you think they would get? That's one of the things that I want to know. Because honestly, from where I'm sitting, he's only played 8 games in the NFL. You gave up 3 first-round picks for a guy that had 1 good season in college, got his other season in college cut by COVID, and then went to the NFL draft. You jumped the gun and took a massive swing on a guy and bet on yourselves, and it didn't work out. So you have no leverage in a trade. Honestly, I would say you have no leverage in a trade at all. You would probably get the return that the Arizona Cardinals just gave Isiah Simmons for, which is a 7th round pick, if you're lucky. But you look at Trey Lance, and I just don't know what to think about him. I don't have enough information to say that he's a bust. What I do have enough information about is that he is injury prone. In his career already, he is injury prone. He's only played 2 seasons and he's already injury prone. And that is a bad look. I wonder what team will take a shot on Trey Lance, because right now I have no idea. Would I like him in a Seahawks uniform? No. I wouldn't. I actually wouldn't want him in a Seahawks uniform. And that's coming from me, a guy who thinks that everybody should be in a Seahawks uniform because I'm a fan of Seahawks. But again, man, this is a very interesting time for Trey Lance. Honestly, I hope he does. I hope he comes back from his injury and he comes back strong. And I hope he can, um, rebuild his career. I hope either if he sticks with the 49ers or goes somewhere else to play, I hope he can rebuild his career eventually. Because honestly, man, I don't like calling him a bust because I just don't have enough information. He has not played enough games to warrant me calling him a bust yet. The return or the investment that the 49ers put into him, if you're calling him a bust off of 3 first-round picks, don't call him a bust. Call the 49ers incompetent for making that trade, not doing their due diligence enough to make a trade that kind of Herculean, and taking a big swing that didn't work out. But anyways, that is the end of episode 3 of the Seahawk recap show, news of the week. If you liked it, please leave a like. And if you really liked it and liked my little bit of rambles there, please consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. And if you are a Seahawks fan, please tell your friends. If you're not a Seahawks fan and you just stumbled upon this channel, please share it with your other friends so that we can get more traffic to the channel, so that it's more exposure for football fans in general. I will see you on Saturday for the last preseason game, Seahawks versus Packers. I will be going and recapping that game for all the Seahawks fans, and it is sure to probably be a good one. This is Ryan Koke signing off for the Seahawks Recap Show. Go Hawks, go.